Hello guys, how are you?
I'm Hardeep Singh. Welcome back to your own YouTube channel. IELTS updates and recent exams. For more updates related to recent IELTS exam writing test topics, listening, reading, practice test, and speaking, you got guesswork. Please, guys, participate in everyday listening and reading practice test to achieve your desired band score in your actual IELTS exam. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Press the bell icon for the upcoming notifications. Don't forget like, subscribe and share my YouTube channel and my Facebook page, IELTS updates and recent exams.
Part 1.
You will hear a conversation between a man and a researcher. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 10. Good morning, sir. Are you enjoying the Perfect Home exhibition?
Yes, I am. It's very interesting. I'm planning on buying a home in the near future, and this exhibition has given me some great ideas.
I'm conducting a survey on behalf of the exhibition organisers. Can I take a few minutes of your time to ask you some questions?
Yes, of course. Can we sit down? I'm rather tired after walking around the different exhibits and stands.
Of course. I'll ask my colleague to get you a drink. Coffee?
Yes, please. Milk and 1 sugar. Now, I suppose you'll need my name.
Yes, Mr.
Glass. William Glass. Double S.
Do you have an email address, Mr. Glass?
I do. It's wglass@email.com.
I'll just fill in the date, 26th of February 2007. Right, what do you do, Mr. Glass?
I work at the Ministry of Culture. I'm a civil servant.
How old are you?
29.
And your marital status?
I live with my girlfriend.
Right, single. Do you have any children?
No.
And could I ask you how much you earn?
Well, I'd rather not say, to be honest.
Could you just look at these ranges and say where you fit in?
Oh, okay. There, 24 to 36,000.
Okay, that's the personal information I need. Now I'd like to ask you about the property you live in. Do you live in a house or a flat, and how big is it?
I live in a flat. About 100 square metres, a little under.
Do you rent or is it yours?
I have a mortgage.
Now, you said that you are anticipating buying another home in the near future. Are you intending to get a house?
Yes, I am. Just a small one.
What's your budget like?
Well, the bank has said that they'll allow me a mortgage of up to £100,000. So enough for a small house.
When you say a small house, what kind of size were you thinking?
Oh, perhaps a little under 200 square metres. With a garden of, I don't know, maybe 20 square metres.
And when do you think you'll buy the property?
Within the next 6 months, hopefully sooner.
Ah, here's your coffee. Thank you, John.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions.
Mr. Glass, have you seen any particular properties that you are interested in?
Yes, I have. There's an interesting development going on in the district of Hayden. The government has joined up with a private company to offer affordable housing there. It's on the outskirts of the city, but the transportation links look excellent. Regular buses to the underground station. That means that it will only take me an hour to get to work in the morning, not much more than it takes now.
They're going to have some nice facilities nearby too.
Yes, I'm looking forward to the cinema complex and the shopping centre, of course. I love films and shopping will be convenient.
There's a golf course nearby too.
Well, I'm sure many of the other residents will appreciate it. I'll join the fitness centre instead. Is your company involved in the development in any way?
Oh, my company just does research. However, the private developer involved in that project is our client. These smaller houses are about 180 square metres, which suits you perfectly.
Yes, property is so expensive in this city nowadays. It's good that the government is beginning to help those of us who don't make large amounts of money.
Well, thank you very much. I'd like to give you these free gifts.
Oh well, thank you very much. A notebook and a pen are always useful, and the t-shirt will come in useful in the summer. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
That is the end of part 1.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 2.
You'll hear a lecture. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 20. Welcome everyone. My name is Pamela Stark and I'm here to tell you about international students and employment in this country. Let me start by stating the most important thing first. Your ability to work in this country while you're here as an international student depends on whether you are an EEA national, that is a European Economic Area national, not an EEA national with a stamp saying restriction on working in your passport, or not an EEA national with a prohibition on working stamp in your passport. Now, if you are an EEA national, you can work freely in this country. You can work for an employer or be self-employed. If your dependents, such as your spouse or children, come with you to this country, they can work here as well, no matter what their nationality. This is thanks to EEA rules, and these rules also mean that students from this country studying in other EEA member states can work freely too. Now, if you have come here for a course lasting more than 6 months, the immigration authorities automatically put a restriction on working in your passport. It is worded in the following way: work and any changes must be authorized. This allows you to work under certain conditions. The first of these conditions is that during term time you can work no more than 20 hours per week, but you can work longer if the work placement is an essential part of your course. For example, the work period of a sandwich course. The second condition is that you cannot run your own business, be self-employed, or work as a professional sports person or entertainer. The third condition is that you cannot take up a permanent full-time position, though you can do full-time short-term work during the holidays. If you are enrolled on a course lasting more than 6 months and you do not have this stamp, speak to an advisor at your institution immediately. Do not start work. It may be that a mistake has been made that needs to be corrected. However, if a mistake has been made, if you start work, you are breaking the law. This could have serious consequences for your future stay here. Another point that I would like to make is that even if you expect to be given a restriction on working, or already have one, you cannot include your earnings as evidence of your ability to support yourself financially. However, there are 2 exceptions to this rule. One is if you will be attending a publicly funded college or university, and the institution guarantees that it will employ you and can provide details of your pay. The other is if you will be attending a sandwich course at a publicly funded college or university, and the institution guarantees that there will be a job for you and can provide details of your pay. In those two cases, you can include these earnings as evidence of your ability to support yourself. If you are from a country outside the EEA and your course in this country lasts 6 months or less, the immigration authorities are likely to have put a prohibition on working in your passport. It is worded as follows: no work or recourse to public funds. This means that you are not allowed to work at all while you are here. If you have come for a course of 6 months or less and want to be able to work, for example because your course involves a work placement, you should have explained this when you applied for entry clearance or when you landed, if you did not get entry clearance in advance. If you have already been given a prohibition on working, you may be able to apply to have it changed. Ask the international officer or student advisor at your institution for advice. If you can provide evidence that you will be on a placement, your passport stamp will normally be changed. However, do not begin your placement before getting your stamp changed. Again, that is illegal and could affect your future studies in this country.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions.
Now, let's take a look at the situation if you are a non-EEA national and have brought your spouse or children with you. In that case, their passports will show the conditions that apply to them. They may be given either a prohibition on working, as explained above. This means they are not allowed to work, or they may have been given an entry clearance or stamp that does not mention employment at all. In this case, they are free to work in here without any limitations other than the right to start their own business. They will have been given this stamp if they have shown evidence that you, the student, have been given permission to be here for at least 12 months. Finally, let's take a look at working after your course ends. If you are a non-EEA citizen, until now the majority of non-EEA students have found it difficult to obtain permission to stay on in this country after their studies for work, apart from if they were training for a professional or specialist qualification before returning home. However, the government is currently reviewing its policies, and some changes may be introduced that make it easier for students to stay on for work. You can find information about the current position if you click on Work Permits on the website listed on the leaflet I have given you. I should say that special provisions have always applied to doctors, dentists and nurses, and these will continue.
That is the end of part 2.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 3.
You are going to hear Bob asking 3 other students some questions for a survey. First, listen to the first part of the conversation and answer questions 21 to 25.
Hi guys, I'm Bob. Have you got a few minutes?
Sure, but what's up?
Nothing much, but I've got to do a survey for my sociology class. It'd be great if you could help me out. You're students here, aren't you? Senior around campus.
Yeah, economics majors. I'm Jed.
I'm Sue.
And I'm Anne.
Hi. Economics. I haven't made my mind up yet. It's a toss-up between sociology and environmental studies. Resource management, sustainable development, that sort of thing.
Sure, but I have a class in 10 minutes. How long will it take?
Well, if I start with you, I should be able to get the info I need in 5 minutes or so.
Okay. What do you want to know? Names and stuff.
Anonymous is okay. I just need your major, economics, and what year you are.
We're all sophomores. The fun year.
Yeah, me too. Anyway, the first thing I want to know... By the way, these are open-ended questions. You can say as much or as little as you want.
Okay, fire away.
Right. What do you think is the single most important problem facing the world today?
I reckon it's global warming, not terrorism. I've been taking this environmental economics class, and it's really...
Come on, Sue. I've told you. This climate change stuff is all a big scare cooked up by environmental groups who care more about pandas than people. So subjective.
As the conversation continues, answer questions 26 to 30.
You're like a tape recorder. Why don't you learn what you're talking about?
Okay, guys, argue about it later. I just want to ask Sue a couple more questions so she can get to her class. What makes you think this, Sue?
Well, if you read about, just check on the internet. There's tons of information. But just look at the effects of rising temperatures on agriculture. For every degree rise in temperature above 30 degrees, there's something like a 10% drop in crop yields.
So that's your main reason for...
It's one of them. Sea levels could rise a meter or more by the end of the century. Think what that will mean for the billions of people who live in low-lying areas. And thousands of species could go extinct because they couldn't adapt quickly enough.
I told you she cares more about pandas than people.
Jed, she mentioned all those billions of people in low places, and don't forget all the farmland that will be ruined by saltwater intrusion, replacing fresh underground water.
I've got to go. Why don't you see what Bob has to say? All he worries about is stock market trends. But we love you, Jed. Must go. See you.
Thanks. See you. So what's your major worry, Jed?
Sue kind of said it. It's a global economic slowdown, so people won't have jobs.
And what jobs will they have if food production drops like it could?
Maybe we should do this another time. Bye, guys.
That is the end of part 3.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 4.
You are going to hear a talk about Oxford and Cambridge universities. You now have some time to read questions 31 to 40.
Good evening, fellow members of the New York Memory Club. Tonight I'm going to talk about those two famous English universities, Oxford and Cambridge. Let's see who wins tonight's big memory prize, which is a barrel of real English beer. Okay, here I go. Oxford is the oldest English-speaking university in the world. There is no clear date of when it started, but records show that there was some teaching at Oxford in 1096 AD. And it developed rapidly from 1167, when King Henry II banned English students from attending the University of Paris. In 1188, a historian gave a public lecture to the top Oxford teachers, and in 1190, the first known overseas student arrived. This started the university's tradition of international exchanges. In 1231, the masters, meaning the teachers, were recognized as a universitas, which is Latin for something like a corporation. In the 13th century, conflict between town and gown, meaning ordinary townspeople and students, the students wore gowns, accelerated the establishment of halls of residence like dormitories. This led to the Oxford colleges, of which University, Balliol and Merton colleges, established between 1249 and 1264, are the oldest. Less than a century later, Oxford was the most famous centre of learning in the world. It soon became a centre for religious and political disputes. John Wycliffe, a 14th century master of Balliol College, campaigned for a Bible in common English. The pro-Latin leaders of the Catholic Church in Rome were very angry over this, and even more angry when, in 1530, King Henry VIII forced Oxford University to accept his divorce from Catherine of Aragon. In the late 17th century, the Oxford philosopher John Locke, suspected of treason, was forced to leave England. The 18th century was an age of scientific discovery and religious revival. For example, a geometry professor at Oxford, Edmund Halley, successfully predicted the return of the comet that was named after him. I don't have enough time to tell you much more about Oxford University, but I must tell you that from 1878, academic halls were established for women. Since 1974, only one of Oxford's 39 colleges has not accepted both men and women. St Hilda's College remains the only women's college. Now for a few numbers. The University of Oxford has over 17,000 students. A quarter of these students are from outside the UK, 5% from Asia, 8% from North America, 10% from other European countries, and a few from elsewhere. Oxford University currently has students from more than 130 countries. Over 5,600 students are engaged in postgraduate work. Of these, around 3,000 are working in the arts and humanities. Going back to the colleges, of which there are 39, there are also 7 permanent private halls, which were founded by different Christian denominations, and which still retain their religious character. 30 colleges and all 7 halls admit students for both undergraduate and graduate degrees. 7 other colleges are for graduates only. 1, All Souls, has fellows only, and 1, Kellogg College, specialises in part-time graduate and continuing education. Okay, that's enough for Oxford. Now I'll tell you something about Cambridge University. The town itself has its origins in the 1st century BC, when an Iron Age tribe established a settlement on Castle Hill. Later, the Romans took over this site, which was an important strategic point, and was the meeting point of several important Roman roads. Over 1,000 years later, the Normans from France built a castle here. All that remains of this castle nowadays is the small hill that was inside the castle walls. In the 12th century, students attended schools attached to the monasteries and cathedrals, and as universities developed in Italy and France, scholars moved from one centre to another. Some went from Paris to Oxford, and later, in the 13th century, groups arrived in Cambridge. By the middle of the 12th century, there were enough students there for the town to be officially recognised as a seat of learning. In fact, in 1231, King Henry III wrote out orders on how academic life in the town was to be managed. At this time, students had to make their own arrangements for living accommodation. Because it was difficult to find a decent place to live, hostels, like simple small hotels, were set up for them. and from these the college system evolved. The first college was Peterhouse, founded by a bishop, the Bishop of Ely. Just like in Oxford, as the university grew and took over more of the town, there were outbreaks of trouble between town and gown. Well, my time is nearly up, so I'll fast forward to the late 1800s, when two colleges were founded for women, but it was not until the late 1940s that they were awarded degrees. A third women's college was founded in the 1950s, but it was not until the 1970s that other colleges began to accept female students.
That is the end of part 4.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
So guys, don't forget like, subscribe and share my YouTube channel and my Facebook page, IELTS updates and recent exams. For more updates related to recent IELTS exam writing test topics, listening, reading, practice test and speaking, you cut guesswork. Please guys, participate in everyday new IELTS listening and reading practice tests to achieve your desired band score in your actual IELTS exam. For more IELTS material, visit my official website www.ieltsupdatesandrecentexams.com. The link is given below in the description. If you need PDF files of latest IELTS material, then please join my Telegram channel. So guys, please write your score below the comment section. Again, thanks for listening. God bless you all guys. Stay tuned, stay safe.